If you watched our speculation video a few days ago, we estimated the RSI Perseus to either be 115 meters with size 8 guns, or 145 with size 9s, with us leaning towards the prior. Now, with RSI Day of the IAE come and gone, we now know the ship is actually 100 meters with size 7 guns. The wonders of stuff not being to scale in the Hollow model. So, does the Perseus have a place in the lineup? Let's get something out of the way first. This is not a should I buy video, as we tend to encourage earning in-game rather than spending real money. That said, if you want to buy it, that's your prerogative. We just won't try and convince you either way. The Perseus then is the new small corvette class vessel from RSI, slated as a recreation of a long-retired military vessel for the civilian market. With a focus on firepower, being 100 meters bow to stern, 50 meters across the beam, and standing at 21 meters in height, the Perseus is best compared to the Hammerhead, both in form and function. We've seen some comparisons to the Nautilus, due to similar size and also the Nautilus sporting a twin size 7 mount on the front, but as the Nautilus is a mine layer rather than gun vessel, we're going to avoid that comparison moving forward. Let's talk about proposed handling. The Perseus is set to have an SCM speed of only 92 meters per second, which makes it slower in combat than the slightly larger Hammerhead. We don't know the pitch and roll rates yet, although we can expect it to be roughly on par. In Atmo, however, the Perseus should come into its own, thanks to a fairly aerodynamic shape and the presence of VTOL thrusters. Got that right at least. Functionally, it looks to be pretty good overall. 50 SCU of cargo certainly won't make it a good cargo runner, but it should be plenty enough space to load up either an Ursa rover or a couple of Dragonflies for scouting out asteroid fields. Along with quarters, a mess, and a full complement of escape pods should things go awry, the Perseus looks set to be a pretty good long-range patrol vessel. Onto the party piece, or rather party pieces, the guns. With 2 man turrets sporting twin size 7s, the Perseus should host a decent amount of firepower. But herein lies the concern that many people have got at the moment. Let's take a Hammerhead and outfit it with M6As. Why M6As, I hear you ask, when the Perseus looks to have ballistics? Because the MXA series of weapons are the only ones which go to size 7, so they make the best comparison right now. This brings the Hammerhead's total DPS to 12,400, although in reality you're only ever going to get 4 of the turrets on target, so let's call it 8,200. Now let's set the Perseus with 4 M9As and we get a DPS of 6,900. And that's assuming that you're able to bring both of the main turrets to bear. Finally, let's talk Self-Propelled Ordnance. For the Hammerhead, you could outfit it with 64 Dominator 2 missiles and swarm the target for a somewhat terrifying 250,000 damage. On the opposite end of the scale, you could outfit it with 8 Reaper 5 torpedoes for a relatively unimpressive 78,000 damage. The Perseus, you've only got one choice, due to the twin bespoke tubes, each sporting 10 size 5 torpedoes, giving you a maximum damage of 195,000. Now we do need to make mention here, by the way, that torpedoes will be seeing a damage buff in 3.12, so that number is probably going to grow. So why would anyone take a Perseus over a Hammerhead? A Hammerhead's faster, has roughly the same carrying capacity and all the same amenities. It has a higher DPS from turrets, which most likely are going to have a much greater range of motion and slew rate, and it can swarm the target with missiles for much more damage at a much closer range. Well, that's the first reason, range. Bigger guns inherently have a longer range, excepting scatterguns, allowing the Perseus to capitalise on high levels of alpha damage to take down targets before they can get close enough to open fire. Then there's crew requirements. A Hammerhead realistically needs a minimum of 5 people to be effective. Perseus can get away with 3. Finally, there's CIG's future goals. I mentioned DPS values a minute ago, but doing so was kind of misleading. For those who aren't aware, there are 2 things being worked on currently that play into this. The first is physicalized components, following which ships won't actually have a HP value, meaning that DPS isn't as relevant. The second is armour, with the intent being that small rounds will simply bounce off thick plating, meaning large calibers are needed to pierce armoured targets. And therein lies the purpose of the Perseus, penetrating armoured targets, something that the Hammerhead is unlikely to be able to do on any target larger than a constellation because it's only got size 4 guns. So, which is better? Well, neither. If you drop into a swarm of vanguards, then due to the presumed lack of manoeuvrability and the slow-moving turrets, a Perseus is, for need of a better word, fucked. Drop in front of a Polaris, and the Hammerhead may as well turn around and quantum the heck out of dodge. Run the two together, however, and you suddenly have a pair of vessels each countering each other's weaknesses, allowing them to thrive in any situation. They aren't rival ships, they're best mates. That's assuming, of course, that all we've said about future changes does in fact come to pass. If the Perseus released in the current state of the game, we'd just tell you to ignore it and get a Hammerhead. That said, it's still a lot prettier than a Hammerhead. Leave your thoughts down below on the Perseus. We're curious, do you think our perceived place for the ship is on the mark? And with that, well, thank you for watching, and we'll catch y'all next time.